Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. There's a lot that's happened over the weekend, a lot to digest, so let's get started. I'm going to go over first in the NFL, go over NFL takeaways from the games this past week. So let's start with the Thursday night football game with the Bucks versus Bears. My one phrase is Foles' magic beats the GOAT. Foles is now 2-0 against Tom Brady, one being after Super Bowl win, which usually goes to Brady. And now the Bears' offense, even with Foles. Now the Bears' offense, even though with Foles, does concern me. Here's why: they have no running game whatsoever. They will have to throw it all the time with a mediocre offensive line in order to have success. And then the Bucks injuries. If you're the Bucks, your injuries are starting to pile up. It's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens when Green Bay comes to town next Sunday. So don't put too much stock into the Bears, basically, and don't count out Tampa Bay just yet. We'll have to wait and see if how much the injuries are going to impact them against Green Bay. Okay, so the Panthers versus Falcons. Matt the Builder. Head coach Matt Rule just builds good programs wherever he goes. He built up a Temple program that's hardly ever been good, and he made them consistent. I mean, same with Baylor. I mean, besides RG3 areas and maybe an era back in the 80s, Baylor hasn't been that good, but he helped bid Baylor up into almost a playoff team. And now the Panthers in the NFL. So there are still too many good teams in the NFC, so I don't think there's a playoff spot for them. But they will definitely play spoiler for some teams this year. Don't be surprised if they're able to maybe even reach 8-8 or 9-7 this year. Yeah, also, finally the Falcons fired Dan Quinn and their GM. You get blown up by good teams and lose against mediocre teams or even bad teams, it means it's time to go. So I'm glad he got. Oh man, I guess I never wished firing upon anyone but he deserved it. So still a good job though. So I wonder who they're gonna get as their new coach. Raiders versus Chiefs. The dud. All good teams have that week where it's a dud. Basically, they just lay an egg and underperform. So that's what happens to the Chiefs this week. And what's funny is that underperforming for them is still scoring 32 points. I mean, it's their defense basically underperformed. But I wouldn't worry about it though. Every team in the NFL is a dud. So if they lose against Buffalo next week, a team that's kind of like jockeying with them for best AFC record, then it's like, okay, now that's a little bit more of a concern. But right now, I'm not worried yet. Cardinals versus Jets, automatic win. I think it's not bold anymore to say whoever plays the Jets will get an automatic win this year, because I do feel like they could go 0-16. Adam Gase, okay, Bill O'Brien got fired, and I was a little bit surprised when Dan Quinn's been fired, so now Adam Gase needs to be the next one. I'm not sure what the Jets are waiting for. He needs to be fired. If you're the Jets, what more do you need to see? It's just kind of ridiculous. Eagles versus Steelers. Pool party. Rookie wide receiver Claypool for the Steelers had himself a game, 4 touchdowns to be exact. Now, some people are saying, oh, could he be the next AB? I'm not going to go that far just quite yet, but Big Ben definitely has weapons at his disposal, which is dangerous. Now, on the Steelers defense, especially the secondary, I know they got 2 interceptions, but it's just he still gave up a lot of points to the struggling Eagles offense, so that doesn't look good. Anyways, Rams versus Washington. Go back to Haskins. So Kyle Allen got injured, and it was cool to see Alex Smith get in there after his whole rehab story and his journey back. But Alex Smith definitely showed rust, and I wouldn't have him, I would have had him start if Allen is not healthy. So if you have Rusty Smith and Allen's injured for a period of time, then instead of continuing on with Smith, just go back to Dwayne Haskins, give him the rest of the year, and then evaluate it from there. Bengals versus Ravens. The This Bengals team that showed up on Sunday, they basically laid an egg. I didn't recognize them at all. They're at least able to compete with most teams, but this time they just laid an egg. Now I know Baltimore is really good, their defense is really good, and Bengals line sucks, but still, I was kind of surprised. At least now, you know, if you're the Bengals, and if it wasn't obvious before, even though it was, you definitely need to draft a bunch of offensive line in your next draft. Jaguars versus Texans. O'Brien, who? So the first game since the firing of Coach Bill O'Brien, Texas had their best performance, albeit against Jacksonville. And they got the W. So now I still think Indy and Tennessee are too far ahead and better at this point, in my opinion. But if you're the Texans, it just feels good to get the win. Dolphins versus 49ers. Super Bowl loss hangover and effect. It's obvious with injuries and other factors that the 49ers are just not who they were last year. It tends to happen, like Rams, even though they were 9-7 last year, they go from Super Bowl loss to not making the playoffs last year. It just happens. Jimmy G was clearly not 100%, so I'm not sure why they even started in the first place. I know they're kind of desperate, but still, he's a franchise quarterback. If he's not ready to start, you shouldn't start him. So in my opinion, this is a perfect opportunity for a good organization, good team to just tank, get a good draft pick, so you're even better the following year. And then, unfortunately, if you're a Miami fan who wants to see Tua, you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer on that since Fitzpatrick bought himself some more time. Colts versus Browns. We have arrived. Guys, I'm here to break the news that, barring any major injuries, and right now Baker Mayfield's getting x-rays on his ribs and stuff, but if it comes back negative and he's fine, the Browns will make the playoffs for the first time forever as a wild card, to be specific, but they're going to make the playoffs. I'm gonna hop on that train. We were waiting for them to get a big victory because, Bengals suck, Washington sucks, Dallas not that good. Those were easy victories. But the Colts, they're a good team, and they just obliterated the Colts defense. Now it doesn't help that Phillip Rivers threw 2 interceptions, but credit the Browns defense for making it look like the Phillip Rivers of last year. Myles Garrett's doing a good job anchoring that defense. He's worth his money. And Odell's doing better than that this year. And now they finally have a coach who can take them there. Kevin Stefanski was able to lead Kirk Cousins to the upset win over New Orleans in the first round of the playoffs. He can lead the Browns just to at least make the playoffs, in my opinion. So happy for Cleveland fans. Obviously we'll still need to wait and see, but it's looking very good. Giants versus Cowboys. This win's for Dak. So prayers up for Dak. I hope he recovers soon and well. I feel bad he doesn't have his money or long-term deal. Even though Dak took a gamble on himself, I feel bad. Even though I've had my opinions about him, but I hope he recovers well. Hope Jerry Jones takes care of him in some way. He definitely deserves it. But overall, the players seemed to amp it up in crunch time, knowing what was on the line and what happened earlier, and they delivered on cue, and they got the victory that they needed. Now their defense is still horrible. If you take off the pick six, you gave up 27 points to a New York Giants team that could barely score 12. That was horrible. But right now, Dallas is in first in the division at the moment, and if they can beat Arizona on Monday night, and they can kind of get a roll with these schedules since Philly now hosts Baltimore, so that's going to be a loss. There's still hope there for Dallas, not all lost. Now, it's funny because typically Dallas, from what I've seen in the past, never really has a good backup quarterback. But except for that 1 year where Romo was just getting injured, and they had gone through 3 or 4 quarterbacks that year. Dallas traditionally hasn't really relied on the backup quarterback in a while. But how about a year where they need a backup quarterback? They have one. They happen to have one. They need Dalton. So that was very fortunate for the Cowboys fans. So, in my opinion, it's not over yet. Vikings versus Seahawks. What can you do? The Vikings had the right game plan, unlike the Cowboys, where they wanted to do a shootout with Russell Wilson. Instead, the Vikings were just going to run the ball, eat up the clock, time possession. The time possession gap, guys, was huge. They had the ball for twice as long as Seattle. And that was with Dalvin Cook injured not most of the game. But since it's Wilson, they find a way to win. I don't blame Mike Zimmer, by the way, for going out 4th down in inches because they've been running the ball effectively all night. So it looked like they were going to get in right out the clock. Now, looking back, ended up being the right decision, especially since Seattle missed their 2-point conversion. So it ended up being the right position. But you got to go for it sometimes. But if you're Vikings fans, you host the Falcons next week. So you're going to get a win and you're going to feel better soon. So now, moving on to NBA news. So the Lakers are the 2020 NBA champions. Not a surprise there. I will admit, though, that I did thought, even though it was a good possibility that this could go 6 games, I thought it was going to go 5 games. So my apology to Heat fans there. The series, for the most part, was predictable. I said it on this podcast that Game 5 was going to be tough for the Lakers because I knew the Heat weren't just going to fold. I knew they were going to fight and claw, do everything they can to keep the series alive, and sure enough, they did. And then I didn't get a chance to say this on my podcast because I didn't do a podcast over the weekend, but I knew once Miami won on Friday, the Lakers were probably going to win Game 6 because Miami would be too tired, especially Jimmy Butler, from exerting all his effort in Game 5. Sure enough, I was right. The biggest thing I said was if Butler posts a 30-plus point game, having a near triple-double, like 30-plus, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, type of thing, that Miami would most likely win. Sure enough, the 2 games Miami won, Jimmy Butler put up those type of numbers. It also happened to be the 2 games where AD struggled the most, which is no coincidence, in my opinion. But there you go. So now, if you're Miami during this offseason, I mean, you're not going to keep every single player. Like, you may have to lose a Jay Crowder or something like that. But if you're Miami, I would make the trade offer for Giannis, so you can take that next step. Because even though you got to the finals with this group of excellent role players, you need, and Bam is an all-star. You need a top-tier all-star, in my opinion, or even a superstar in order to get over the hump, in my opinion. So we'll see if they go after, or see what they do in the offseason. Now, if you're the Lakers, you have to sign AD to a long-term deal and not let him walk a free agency. Not that I don't get why you would want to walk, though, because Lakers give him the best chance of winning a chip right now. So, other than that, I would run it back mostly everyone. That includes like Dwight Howard, signing him to another 1-year deal or 2-year deal, whatever. Going KCP, Rondo, get them to long-term. Caruso. Now, players like Danny Green or even Kyle Kuzma, I would, if I get the right trade offer for them, I would take it. But other than that, run mostly everyone back. It'll be interesting what the rosters look like next year with not a great free agency that's coming up, but an interesting draft. So in my next podcast, I'm going to go over my way too early NBA predictions and go over some other stuff as well regarding college football and stuff. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast. Please subscribe to my channel. Tell everyone about me. Please leave comments on what you'd like me to talk about in the future. Thank you very much, and you all have a wonderful day.